What's up guys, welcome to this review, and today I'm reviewing Observation, the newest game from Devolver Digital. And it's a point and click puzzle game where you're on a space station, you play as the onboard space station AI along with a crew member. Both of you have just woken up on this station. Not going to go into spoilers too much, but things aren't the way they're supposed to be. The station's not exactly where it's supposed to be, and the crew's missing. So your whole point of this game is to find out what's happened, how it's happened, and why it's happened. So the initial setup of the story in that regard is really interesting and fascinating. It hooks you right from the word go. There's lots of twists and turns in there that make you really reconsider what's going on and make you just boggle your mind at times. As a science fiction story, it's a really good one. It takes some of the best moments from films like 2001: A Space Odyssey, Interstellar, Gravity, The Cloverfield Paradox, and a bunch of others, and it puts them all together. It's really quite cool that way on when it comes to the story. However, I do have to say, the story, while fascinating and interesting, I think it does lose its way a bit towards the end, and it goes from being grounded science fiction to a little bit more weird. But in terms of the gameplay, I said this is a point and click puzzle game. Yes, kind of. The point and click element of it is that because you are the station's onboard AI, you look through the eyes of the cameras on board the station. You do get to access these spheres, which are drone-like machines, so you can traverse the station in a bit more of a first-person style. But for the majority of the game, you are looking through cameras, you're going from left to right, up and down, panning around the rooms, trying to find something to interact with. And it's really simple. You find the thing you want, you click on it, and then chances are there's some sort of puzzle or combination that you've got to put in. The problem with this is that the camera movements can be really slow. And because of that, because you're doing it a lot, it can end up being pretty tedious at times. You can go into the options and adjust the camera sensitivity, but personally I didn't notice much of a difference on there. I think that might be more towards the spheres and the drones rather than the actual physical cameras. And as for the puzzles are interesting because the hard part about the puzzle is trying to find out what it is you're meant to do rather than actually doing it. Once you actually know what the puzzles are, they're pretty easy for the most part. And there's a good variety of puzzles in there as well. You're rarely doing the same thing over and over again. So for example, you might be introduced to a puzzle early on in the game, then the next time you do it could be right at the end. But sticking with the actual cameras for a moment, the spheres and the drones, they are disorientating. This is a first-person perspective game, kind of. So when you're in the sphere, and because it's in space, there's no gravity, you are floating there, it can be really disorientating, really nauseous, and I rarely ever feel that way in a game outside of VR. So yeah, I'm not sure if it's a compliment, because it does replicate what I imagine being in zero gravity would be like, but at the same time, it's like, it makes it a little tough to play. I found myself having to really slow down the movements I was making just so I could physically get through certain sections of the game. But there's more to this than just point and click exploration, finding out all these puzzles. There are tons of collectibles in there which expand on the story and the characters. I do encourage you to look into all these collectibles if you get the chance, because the story will just be all gobbledygook otherwise, I imagine. But because the puzzles are so simple, because the actual core mechanics of using the cameras are so simple, this game can be fairly straightforward, fairly just simple, and that could negate some of the fun that some players might get from it. I think it's much better to look at this game as a narrative experience rather than a game, but there are interactive elements in there. And also the pacing, because it is slow, because you are using your camera, moving around, trying to find things to interact with, rather than being a bit more active and engaged in there. It's not going to be for everyone in terms of the gameplay. But just sticking with the actual interactive element and the point and click element, the environments are gorgeous, they're really detailed, they're really grounded and realistic. It is set, I think, like 20 years in the future, so it's not too far away. But the whole space station looks like it's the International Space Station, so that's a great thing. It sets the mood and the tone really well. There's good lighting in there, good atmosphere at times because of what's going on in the story and because of where you are, it can actually evoke feelings of horror and thriller in there. So that's pretty cool. In terms of the characters and who you're interacting with, the voice acting is pretty good across the board. Sadly, where the one big weakness of the game is in the character models and the animations. Not so much the models actually, it's just when you're seeing a character up close and in person, the animations look a bit stiff and bland. And yes, this isn't a big full AAA game, so you can't expect too much from them. But when the characters are speaking and they're like on the board of when the characters are speaking and they're on the verge of tears, it would help if they actually looked like they were about to cry, if they looked like they were scared. Instead, all that's really moving is their mouth, and every now and then they're blinking. So yeah, that's a bit disappointing. But the actual look of the characters is fine. It's just when they're actually meant to be emotive and when they're actually supposed to be interactive and doing something. You can get away with the actual physical movements of them because they are in space, they are in zero gravity, so they do kind of look a bit doll-like. But when it's actually up close and in person, seeing their face, it's a bit of a problem. But the point and click element, it can also be a bit frustrating at times because when you're panning around the room with a camera, it'll usually highlight all the different things in the room, but not all of them are interactive, which begs the question, why have them highlighted at all? Especially when most of the things that you see in the game, most of the things that are highlighted in the game, never interactable at all throughout the whole game. At least they weren't for me. So it can be frustrating when you're going through a room and there's a bunch of things clicking on and think, oh, I found it. No, you haven't. You've still got to keep looking, and sometimes you got to be really accurate with the things you're looking at. So that can be a bit frustrating. So on the whole, I think this game is a good game. It's a really fascinating, interesting science fiction story. Personally, I think it lost its way a bit towards the end, but some people really think it's cool. So on the gameplay front, I think it's a pretty simple game. The puzzles are good, but it can be frustrating when characters are just saying, oh, do this, but they're not actually saying what it is you have to do. It's more, you need to do this, you need to finish this, you need to accomplish this task, but it doesn't tell you how to do it. So that can be frustrating and annoying at times. But once you actually figure it out, the puzzles are simple, and I think because of that, this game's not going to be for everyone. It is going to be frustrating, and the camera movements, because things are a little on the slow side, particularly when you're in the fixed camera rather than the sphere, it can be tedious. But ultimately, I think you're going to get this game because of the story, because of the atmosphere, and if you like a good science fiction story, I do recommend it. But that's my review of Observation. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate that. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of Observation. If you've got any questions as well, leave them down below. Give me a thumbs up, and you can go to Twitter and Instagram and follow me at _Grant Burton. But that's all I got for now, so until next time, thanks for watching.